All right, guys, welcome to this week's live. Sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties, as you guys know. So apologies. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, okay, so for our Facebook Live group, guys, what we're doing is after we record these on Facebook Live, we are uploading them to YouTube so that you guys can watch them later if you're not able to make the live. It just makes it a little bit easier for you guys to find it, as well as build our YouTube audience. For those of you watching on YouTube, if you find today's content and value useful, please like, subscribe, and comment what you found useful or potentially some other things that you would like us to cover in the future. All right. For those of you who do or who are watching us on Facebook or YouTube later, if you want to check us out live, you can join our Facebook group. Actually, be on the lives. That's where you can post active questions to the live that's going down, and then I'll actually respond to the lives on that stream. Okay. Cool. So, like I was saying before, apologies again for the technical difficulties, but for those of you who don't know, my name is Charlie Mitchell. I am the CEO, co-founder of a company called Kids Programs Solutions with my wife, Allie. We have collectively over 15 years working in the kids program industry, and we've scaled programs up to $1 million in revenue annually. We've taken programs from 6 to 50,000 in as little as 6 months using only one modality, which would be Ninja in this specific example. But we've done this with our clients as well. We've helped them transform, ramp up revenue by anywhere from 15 to 25% in 90 days, as well as we've been spending a lot of time and focus and attention on the staffing piece because it seems like that is a very common problem that we're seeing amongst a lot of these kids program owners. So we really want to zero in on that specific component within the business and provide as much value as you guys can. And if you are wondering, these videos are made with the intention of building value and content into this relationship so that you guys may eventually want to work with us on a more intimate level and have us help scale up your program and remove your issues. But if that is something you'd be interested in, keep an eye out for the chat later on in the video. You guys will have a link where you can go schedule an appointment with us, and we'll go from there to show you some of the products that we have and services that we offer to help you guys scale up your kids program and break through whatever obstacle you are currently dealing with. Okay? All right, awesome, cool. So now that we've talked about it, let's get into it. So every week, Thursday, 11 a.m., we are doing these lives. And as I mentioned before, we've done some, a lot more staff stuff recently because of the fact that it does seem to be that most common problem. Now, what I want to do is I want to keep these a little bit shorter in terms of like applicational capabilities, meaning I want to make it to where it's easier to implement these right away so that you guys can actually take these lives, implement them, and kind of see some transitions happening in a shorter time frame than big picture stuff. So today is going to be stuff that you can use right now to begin. You can begin this right now to start improving the overall effective communication within your team. So smooth operations. Why is this so important? Because communication is such a central piece of your business and communication with your team specifically. It is a very undermined component of culture. A lot of people just kind of take communication for granted, and so therefore their culture suffers because of that. So today's really a focus of let's take care of communication, which is going to be a offset piece of your culture. It transitions, of course, over into compensation and career path, but the primary area we want to address is culture within our communication. Okay, we want to have a really clean, clear-cut set of communication. Now, I have done a live before where I gave some really solid tips around this kind of thing, so definitely go back and check that one out. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I think it was like effective something. I think communication. So I'll have to check it out. But today's going to focus more on some more practical tips of things that you could implement immediately. So let's get into it. Number one. So I want to set the stage of this is something that you should always go into any of the following tips that I'm going to give you with, which is active silence. Okay. Sometimes silence can be a powerful tool in communication. This involves listening intently to someone without interrupting or filling the silence with unnecessary chatter. It can create a space for deeper understanding and allow the other person to feel heard and understood. Okay, I know this is super challenging, especially for those of you who are nervous, and so you talk when you're nervous. But I really want to challenge you when you're sitting down with a staff member and you're trying to get them to communicate with you. I think it's incredibly important that you have the discipline necessary to kind of just sit there and listen. Sit and listen. Even though you may have the want to fill the space and the staff member's not doing a whole lot of talking, be prepared with open-ended questions that you're willing to ask, okay? And then give the room necessary for that staff member to then fill the space with their thoughts, because what you're looking for is the more they talk, the more information you're going to get and be able to better understand where they're coming from, okay? And so active silence is actively disciplining yourself to be able to be quiet, even for kind of what seems like awkward periods of time, because that awkwardness may in fact work to your advantage by motivating your staff member to start revealing more information that they previously would have held on to, okay? So I want to really deploy active silence in these settings. Now, do one-on-ones frequently where staff just get to talk to you, not you talking at them. Okay, and let me state the difference here. So within our staff structure, we do have quarterly reviews for staff members, and this is for the purposes of reviewing the position. But in terms of the overall well-being and the we'll just say the well-being of the staff member. Okay, doing a one-on-one where you're able to sit down and just kind of ask them how life is going. It doesn't have to necessarily be about the business, okay? You are trying to take an active interest in them as a full human being, meaning they have a life in your business and they also have a life outside of your business. And both of those lives, whether you like it or not, are very interlinked to one another. So if they're having an issue in their personal life, it is more than likely going to spread into their professional life. So this is just kind of an opportunity for you to be a guide, mentor, leader in their life, where they can kind of talk about the things that they're dealing with. And it doesn't have to be about work, okay? And this can be a really cathartic experience for them because it's very therapeutic in the sense that they can talk about anything that might be on their mindset, right? It's an hour of time that you dedicate each month to just doing a one-on-one with them to see where they're at, what they're dealing with, what their problems are, okay? Now, use different environments for remote communication, okay? So this is an old tactic I like to use that I've always found is super, super effective in terms of breaking up the monotony, especially if you're doing it in a space that they're always in. If you're doing it in the gym, whatever. Just get out, go walk around the area, right? If it's too loud, maybe be like, hey, I'm going to take you to lunch. Or, hey, let's head over to this park that's a mile down the road. We'll do a quick drive. Find a setting that is different from where they're normally at, and I promise you it will change the communication. It will change the scenery. It'll make everybody a little more comfortable because it's a neutral meeting ground as opposed to you're the boss in the boss environment. It kind of puts you in a power position, which that for the one-on-ones you don't necessarily want to be in a power position. For the reviews you do, so do the reviews of the business. But in terms of doing these one-on-ones to just kind of see into the inside of their well-being, because it boils down to this, right? The more comfortable they feel in that environment, the more likely they are to communicate with you of what's bothering them, what they think needs to improve. Okay, so those are the reasons why we want to attack this and make them comfortable, put it onto a neutral ground, because we want them to feel like communication is totally open, and by doing that, we enable them to talk to us more. Okay, and so that's why I say go for walks, go for lunch, go to the park, swing on swings, whatever. Like, meet them at their level, be childish again, like, have that kind of fun, maybe go slide on slides, whatever. Like, just have a kind of good time of letting them know that you're there to support them. That's what the feeling is for. And ultimately, that's going to be the best time for them to reveal some things that maybe they felt fearful of relieving at the business, right? Of like, well, such and such is actually even bothering me, or, actually I was thinking about maybe quitting in a couple months. Those are the type of things we do want them to tell us before they just drop that dime on us out of nowhere, okay? And so this is a great way to kind of lower that barrier so they feel comfortable saying, this person's cool, like, hey, I don't want to hurt you, I don't want to hurt the business, like, hey, I'm thinking about quitting. You want to know that stuff ahead of time. All right, and so within that, foster communication by overseeing conflict conversations. Okay, so if you have two staff members and they're kind of at each other's throats, right? They're at each other's necks, dealing with each other. What you want to do is you want to be able to teach them how to resolve their issues, but you don't necessarily want to send them off to reach some resolution on their own if you know that that's not going to end well. So what you want to do is you want to bring those team members in, allow them, and do this at the business. Again, we want the power setting in place so that they know that you're the mediator, you're kind of the judge, the overseer of the situation. But you do want to try to foster them coming to a solution on their own. So you're not trying to interject. You're really trying to, again, active, right? That first slide, active silence. So with allowing your team members to disagree with one another, allow them to also reach a conclusion with you only being a mediator of maybe one's overpowering the other in the conversation, maybe one's a higher position than the other. whatever. Like, you're there to try to keep it on equal grounds so that they can both kind of communicate. And if it gets a little nasty, you also want to interject there and keep it to a constructive conversation and not necessarily them attacking each other's characters. So that's another way for you guys to build a really great communication within the team, is allowing them to become problem solvers on their own. And the best way to do that, if you don't trust them, is to set into a mediator setting. But you have to let me warn you, if you're going to do that, you need to do that with extremely powerful active silence, of really letting them, like, you're really trying to foster and push them into the conversation, push them into the arena to reach a conclusion that you will then support, even if you don't necessarily agree with it. If it's within the confines of acceptable, then you support that. Even if you're like, oh, I don't think that that's the optimum outcome, but it is the outcome they came up with, and it's an acceptable one, so I will support that. And so when they see that, it makes it more likely that they'll do conflict resolution on their own before coming to you, and they'll just come to you with the solution. Or they'll just say, hey, we took care of it, no worries, we're all good, we know what we're going to do. And it can be things like, hey, you're not doing your cleaning, hey, your class is always in my class, hey, your space is always in my space, whatever, right? Like, little petty things that can become big things. Or it could be communication styles of, like, hey, you're always saying these things to me that are cruel, mean, whatever. All right. And so within that framework, you always want to try to get them doing it themselves. But sometimes you have to be the coach, the leader that kind of helps facilitate that environment, which then promotes that ongoing on their own from that point on, from that point. Anyway, so yeah, I hope that makes sense to you guys. Okay, so actually it was 4 tips. I apologize. I don't know what happened to my 5th tip. I have my 5th tip, but I can't go search for it now because I'm in the live. So without further ado, doesn't look like we have any questions in this week's live. Like I said, guys, I do want to keep these quick, concise, to the point, because I want to be respectful of your time, but also not to overwhelm you, to give you some good little pieces that you can take into your business, into your team, deploy these communication tactics. Again, honestly, I would give it twice, right? Active silence, massive, massive, powerful tool that you can deploy in your communication styles to really let someone kind of give you all their thoughts, right? Instead of them saying one thing and then you immediately overrun it, or maybe you try to fill the space. Let them have room to speak. The power of the pause is incredible. It will get you a lot of information you previously wouldn't have had because you felt the need to overstep on that space, okay? So active silence, we'll kind of recap here. Active silence, right? So always and forever in these situations, when we're making the meetings about them, it's active silence, okay? We want to hear what they have to say. We want to do one-on-ones with them, right? And these are not necessarily reviews, right? A one-on-one is exactly what I'm talking about. It's a one-on-one where you're talking to them about life in general, right? Because there are a lot of outside variables that affect their buy-in to your business. Like, maybe they can't get any sleep. Maybe they have a hard time getting to work. Maybe there's personal strife. Maybe somebody in the family's dying. Maybe somebody, whatever. There's a million different variations that could significantly impact their ability to perform for you at the business. Okay, and these one-on-ones is your opportunity to identify what those are, right? And potentially help if you can with those things. Some things you can't help with, it's just heartbreak. But some things you can. But most of all, what's going to be important to your staff is that you're just there for them. Okay, and that's going to be a big piece. Okay, use different environments to promote that communication. So if you feel like you're not getting the exchange you want at the business, go for walks, go for a lunch, go to a park, go to Swing on Swings, something like that to lower kind of that barrier. And then also make sure that you're fostering communication by overseeing conflict resolution, conflict conversation between staff members. If they got differences, pull them in, make them deal with those differences right then and there, and be a mediator in that conversation so that it stays civil and productive, but ultimately allow them to come to the conclusion themselves, provided it's an acceptable one, and then you support that conclusion, even if it's not the optimal conclusion. Okay? All right, awesome, you guys. Well, you have a wonderful week. God bless. And keep an eye out in the group because we're always dropping some cool stuff for you guys to take home for free. Oh, and by the way, on YouTube, if you are watching this and you are not in the group, definitely, if you have a kids program, you're going to want to join the group because we're always dropping really cool stuff in the group that you can get your hands on totally for free. Again, to build that relationship with you guys, and then, hey, maybe one day we decide to work together intimately. If you are interested in potentially working together with more intimacy, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to drop a link in the live here. Allie will drop it. And you can schedule a call with us to where we can go over your specific strategy, your staffing situation, and potentially any communication issues you may have, or just staffing pieces in general. It could be compensation. It could be career pathing. It could be culture. This is more of that cultural piece. So whatever issues you guys are having, especially as it pertains to staff, do not hesitate. Reach out. The call is free. Of course, we'll talk about if the program's the right fit for each other. But most of all, we want to focus in on your program and see if we can help you. Okay? Which we won't know until we get on a call. So in the meantime, you guys have a great week. I will see you next week for next week's Thursday Live. It starts at Thursday, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. All right? Cool. See you guys next time. Bye.